Here's a gentleman whose name I took in vain a little earlier. He doesn't mind that, though. Gerry Byrne, MP, Humberson Bar Baver. Gerry, you're on the air.
Join the group, Bill.
Gerry Byrne's name appears most frequently when anyone says devil's advocate in the whole world. I got it. Yeah, I got it.
God love you.
Yeah. Listen, no, before you go on to anything else, I think I got to give you a chance briefly to respond to what I said to Scott Andrews. That is, why are you complaining about Peter Panashaway? Sure, there was an uprising against Gerry Byrne in his caucus when he was accused of spending a COA money in a high-handed, preferential way in his own riding. But I can't leave that hanging. I got to let you respond to it.
Well, one thing I never did, Bill, is say that I hung up anybody's projects for any cause or any reason. And that's one of those, Peter Panashaway's comments, I think, are very telling, because I guess he can also take credit for holding up the deployment of the Rapid Reaction Battalion in CFB Goose Bay, or the deployment of the unmanned aerial drones. Or he could also take credit for holding up the advancement and improvements to search and rescue, because that seems to be consistent with what Peter Panashaway is saying. He doesn't approve things, he holds them up. That's I don't know if that's a great way to go into an election campaign.
All right, Gerry, it's almost as if you were ready for that question. Okay, what's on your mind?
But I got to finish off by saying, to be honest with you, in all fairness, I don't believe what Peter Panashaway said for 1 second. I think Mr. Panashaway knows that he's in so deep and so dark that he's trying to elicit a reaction from Newfoundland-based politicians and Newfoundland-based opinion leaders to sort of say, how did that little son of a gun do that? That's not fair. Quite fair. I don't believe for 1 second that he actually did that he actually held up projects for the island portion of the province. I think that he's trying to goad a fight between Labrador and the island for the purposes of his own electoral benefit, so that he can present himself as a hero. Which, quite frankly, Bill, I think is pretty disgusting.
We don't want to use up all your time on that subject, but what you're saying, in effect, is that he made up that in order to make him look like a hero in the eyes of Labrador. He made up that story about holding the island part hostage as a bit of bravado. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah, that's pretty well it. I think that's the sign of a desperate man, to be honest with you, but there you go.
All right, and what's on your mind?
One thing he will not be able to hide from is, I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Canada. It's the standing committee of the House that is the direct liaison with the Auditor General of Canada.
All right.
We receive and review all of the Auditor General reports. Michael Ferguson, the Canadian AG, has given me notice that on April 30th, in a few short weeks, he will be releasing an audit, a performance audit.
That's a big one. And talk about Labrador-oriented. Go right ahead.
That's right. And one of the reasons, this audit was begun several months back. It's now completed. I think it's obvious to everyone that the tragedy of the Burton Winters case is actually one of the things that prompted the Auditor General to look at the whole aspect of search and rescue within the federal role. Here's what he's telling me. He says his audit has examined whether federal organizations adequately oversaw search and rescue activities, are ready to respond to search and rescue incidents, and have implemented prevention activities to reduce the number and severity of search and rescue activities. Organizations examined include National Defence and Canadian Armed Forces, the Coast Guard, and Transport. So that's coming out on April 30th. So it's very interesting.
So that's his question, but he hasn't provided an answer yet. That's coming out.
That's right. On April 30th, which is actually 2 weeks before Election Day, in Labrador, the by-election, the Auditor General will be kind of weighing in on the whole issue of search and rescue.
I don't suppose the Auditor General imposed himself on this question on purpose during this by-election, did he?
No, fair question, and I want to respond to it. I'm not the spokesperson for the Auditor General, obviously, but I did actually ask that question to give myself some reassurance. This audit bill was planned to be released in the spring of 2013, several months back.
Okay.
So, and that was made, and in actual fact, it was posted. The Auditor General's intention of releasing it this spring was actually posted on his website several months back.
Gerry, we'll rely on you and other MPs and other watchers of the Ottawa scene to make sure our attention is directed towards the answer to the question that you just mentioned, because when an Auditor General's report comes out, there's so much going on nationally that some things get sort of elbowed out of the way.
Well, that's right. And, you recall, Bill, that there was a lot of resistance by the federal government to actually engage in an inquiry into federal search and rescue activities. And, there was a brouhaha between the province and the federal government about whether or not adequate search and rescue activity was occurring, whether or not we had the resources in place, whether or not the proper plans and procedures were in place. Well, the Auditor General is actually stepping in to fulfill that role. And quite frankly, I think I applaud the Auditor General of Canada, Michael Ferguson, for doing so. I wish that, given the fact that he's kind of set a precedent here, what a great opportunity for the provincial government Auditor General to also step in and monitor and examine and do a performance audit on provincial government search and rescue capacity.
All right. Good questions, Gerry. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to the Auditor General's report on those issues.
On April 30th. God love.
All the best. Bye-bye. April 30th, a couple of weeks before, almost 2 weeks before the by-election date arrives, so that's going to probably have an impact on the result. Who knows?